right? And we can get down to actually cost per lead at some point. Number of prospects, conversion ratio, we talked about that. Average dollar sales, really important. Number of new customers, you want to be tracking that. Number of repeat customers, that's retention. Certainly some of these you're doing already. Number of transactions by customer, and then customer satisfaction. Question on these? Do these look pretty good, like you're doing some of these already? Okay.
Jeff, with your bar, increasing the average ticket, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a very good thing.
To a point, though.
It's a very good thing.
So
the classic story about increasing average dollar sales, the one that I use, like, go to Ace, right, and I'm going to buy a can of paint. If somebody doesn't approach me and ask me, okay, do you need a drop cloth, thinner, brushes, step ladder, molding tape, if they don't ask me that, then they're actually not doing their job. Because they can take that $39.99 gallon of paint, I think that's about right, maybe more. And if they sell me that other stuff, their average dollar sale just went up to, I don't know, $200. Just think of the amount of overhead that absorbed over roughly the same amount of time. Big deal. It's a big deal. Sample KPI measures for financial. These, some of these are going to be pretty self-evident, but they're also may not be relevant to some of your businesses. If you're in the business and you extend terms to people, you want to know how your accounts receivable are aging. That can be described in your days sales outstanding. Certainly you want to measure revenue. If you're in the business of buying stock, you want to measure the inventory and the turn, certainly your profit margin, gross margin. The revenue to expense ratio is important. Actually, gross margin to fixed expense ratio is important. Well, I guess I'm getting to that. Variable and non-variable expenses. Return on investment, return on equity.
It's over the last couple of years, the variable versus non-variable, it's been huge. So overhead's killed, and there's been burn rates, and it's been a big one.
Yeah, and in some businesses, we aren't taking the time to really identify direct cost versus indirect cost. I've seen gross margins in some businesses that are 90%, and I go, wait, because the business owner says 90%, I got a war chest. I can go to market with this war chest, I can price just about anywhere I want because it's 90%. What matters if it goes to 80? Well, what if actually you looked at your direct cost, or what should be direct cost, and you find out your gross margin is really 50? Now we got some problems. The sign company that I was mentioning to you earlier, when we first started working together, he showed a 60% gross margin. I looked at his financials and found out that a lot of his project cost and direct cost and subcontractor cost was down here in overhead because it was easy to track. And then we moved it back up here, and guess what his gross margins really are? 38%. Doesn't have much of a war chest to fight with in the marketplace as he thought. And that's extremely revealing. So knowing those and are they lined up correctly is really critical. Not exciting, not as exciting as sales and marketing stuff, but it's got to be done. Some KPI measures for operations and production, certainly quality data. When you get this, you can sort of use it as a checklist when you get back to your businesses. Timeliness of delivery, response time. Again, when we're at rework, but we'll show that. We showed that on another one. Cost per unit, gross margin per employee, post-sales service, complaints, measuring that's critical. The red, by the way, are what we would consider to be critical, depending on the business. Capacity utilization, absolutely. Safety is one. Goes without saying there. For people, employee turnover, satisfaction, output per employee. This is not a client, I just is a prospect yet, but I visited with them, and they've had like a 20% employee turnover in the last 3 months. Because the business that they're in, the industry that they're in, is really hot right now. And this guy's being poached, I guess would be the word. But you got to put a strategy in place either way. Drivers of performance for people, learning skills mix. Who's measuring some people retention issues already. Generally, you ought to have 5 to 10 employees before that's even a big issue, but it's important to measure. Innovation. This may not be too appropriate, but revenue from new products. Lots of companies will say, okay, this year we're going to generate 25% of our sales, or in the next 3 years, 25% of our sales from new products. Because our old products, the old products, were being matched in the marketplace. Entering new markets geographically, the number of new customers, time to market for new products. These are all measurements around your degree of innovation. Some of these are perhaps more important for larger companies. Okay, the 4 things every owner should know. Profitability of the business. This is about measuring and sharing those measurements. It's communication and motivation. Profitability of the business depends on how well employees consistently perform critical tasks, and so therefore measure those critical tasks, and are they in fact performing to expectations. By the way, there's 3 levels of expectations in any business. There is results-based expectations. Those are generally, we will achieve this number by when, right? Then there is behavioral expectations, right? We will sort of treat each other like this, right, in the company. And there are process expectations, like compliance expectations, filling out time cards and things like that. All 3 of those are very important. Your mix across those 3 different levels of expectations, results, process, behavior, the emphasis might be different. It might be 70% results, might be 20% behavior, it might be 10% process. But there's an interdependence there. And so as you're managing those 3, you need to manage each one of them with the same level of intensity. Because you put a behavioral expectation in jeopardy, it will also influence a results-based expectation. Hopefully that wasn't too elaborate. Employees perform best when they understand how their performance affects the bottom line and how their performance is measured. So that's saying the reason that this is an important KPI, this is how you contribute to that KPI. If it's going up, presumably that's the direction you want, then the team is working well. It's line of sight for why they do what you're asking them to do. Okay, 4 things every owner should know. Second page. Small changes in critical areas can have a great impact on the bottom line, and that's why we talk so much about our 5-ways chart. Small improvements in lead gen, conversion, number of transactions, average dollar sale, and gross margin. 10% across those lines, and we've seen how the multiplier effect works, you could have a 61% improvement in your profitability. That's just doing a number of small things really well instead of searching for the silver bullet. It's a fact. And then last, what gets measured gets done. We all know that. Make your business easier to manage. Establish a handful of key performance indicators. So use this presentation as a checklist. When you get back to your businesses, you'll get hard copies of this. And just think about, what do I need here? What do I need there? What do I need here? Right? Make it less than, clearly make it less than 10. 10 measurements in your business. Casey has some stuff specifically on social media.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you, everybody. It's minus, right?
Oh, yes, the opposite.
All right. 6 things if you're going to look and translate this to Facebook, Twitter, any kind of online website, media. The awareness and the mentions. Now, awareness and mentions on Facebook or on Twitter or on a website. That's basically who's looking at you. Are people aware of it? Are you getting likes? Are you getting comments? Are people sharing some of your stuff? If I go to Main Street, Libertyville, and post on Growth Club, if I post on Car Fund on 21, if we post on the annual meeting, then we get likes and feedback. There was some feedback that came out of the annual meeting, actually, so that was pretty nice to see that Dom Lentini's son had a nice little comment about it. It was very nice to honor my father, and it was presenting the award to Brian was very well fitting. That means we're going to take that and look at it. Hey, that's great. We did something right. That award meant something. It was well done. So you want to look at people, how much awareness is there on your platform, and are people mentioning it and sharing it with other people? Town East Square, the specials.